The Acolyte is set earlier than anything we've gotten in live action Star Wars before. Luckily, you need to fact check me on that. I don't know if that's actually true, but it ended up just barely skirting and breaking the canon of the prequels and the later films with the end of the series there. The story itself, interesting in its premise, I'd say. We're gonna talk about spoilers, by the way. But listen to this. A set of twins who aren't actually twins, but the same person, gets severed when their mother, who created them out of the Force, gets killed. One taken by the Jedi and the other by a Sith. And then as the Jedi cover up their mistake, lines are drawn in the sand. And we don't like the sand, though, because it's coarse and rough and it gets everywhere. These characters also switch lines multiple times until they ultimately are confronted with the reality of their existence of being the different side of the same coin. That sounds like an interesting premise, Lachlan. How did they fumble this so bad?
Yeah, it's a bit of a disappointing one because I really wanted to like this, and there is much to like in regards to the Acolyte, and I think that for those who are just completely shitting on the Acolyte and not seeing anything good, I think that it's very tunnel visioned to think that way when it comes to, TV shows that are made by a company that didn't make the originals and obviously trying to
Yeah.
adapt it for modern audiences. And I think that there are plenty of instances of changes that happen to movies or TV shows that actually work out to benefit them, and they don't always succeed. But I mean, a great example of it we did recently, Mad Max 1 versus Mad Max 2. How extremely different are those two films? And how much does Mad Max 2 then influence the rest of the medium, right?
Yeah.
How
Yeah.
much different is Harry Potter and the Prisoner of Azkaban to the first two Harry Potter movies, right? They're
Mhm.
completely different tonally and set up this much different universe. And there are going to be instances of many different massive IPs that do something like this, that they want to change it up, but they also need to work within the rules and constraints that have already been set. And they don't have to do particular things that just don't add anything to the narrative. I think that the film, the TV show has a really exciting premise, and I think that it does something really cool where you have twins, one good, one bad, the
Yeah.
same person. And what they do with this show, which is super exciting, is they look at Jedi not as perfect figures. And I really enjoy that. One of my favorite ideas within the Star Wars universe is the idea of a grey Jedi. I really like Ahsoka, right? She's not so much with the Jedi, but she's not against them. She doesn't believe in this one universe. Like, she is more Jedi than anything else, but she's not this particular person who completely agrees with what the Jedi do. And in the last episode, they have a character that completely breaks down what the Jedi is, that senator. And that was exciting to see. But there are plenty of fumbles, especially with the narrative and the writing between conversations between characters, that it just isn't fantastic.
There's a lack of care to keep the story like streamlined and actually like make it make sense in a way, which is the most basic thing a story should do. But I feel like too often enough, a lot of the like catalysts for things to happen and things to be revealed very clumsily put together. And it, like, to me, the only praise that I can give it, like pretty much everything else doesn't work for me, is the fights. I think the fights are
Yep.
actually quite fun. Uh,
Yep.
and they
The
don't talk
choreography is
that
fantastic.
it's great. I mean, I'd love to see more of that because that's always intriguing. I'd love to see basically like an action show that isn't as much concerned with maybe having this big tale of like good and bad or whatever, but just like an extended thing of a fight or that ranges for like, I don't know, like 20 minutes, and then you have that be the thing. I don't know if the animated shows are a bit more like that, or because I haven't seen as many of them, but where they get to focus a bit more on the action and stay lighter on the story. No, not really.
Clone Wars has some really, really exciting character developments, and they also
Yeah.
have some really cool, like, how the Force works ideas with like the
Mhm.
mother and the father and the son and the daughter and the yada 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 um
And the Holy
storyline,
Spirit.
and the,
Yeah.
the Holy Spirit. I really want another narrative like this. I want a narrative where the Jedi are flawed. They're not perfect. They make mistakes. And yes, that has already been told. We already know of Jedi that have fallen from grace. Anakin is the most obvious example of a Jedi that's fallen from grace, that narrative, right? But I
Mhm.
also like that Crimea, the Sith that we get in this, isn't inherently just a bad person. Like he just wants to do his job, and he's kind. He offers like clothing, like shelter, and yada yada yada. Like I want this breakdown of good and evil in the Star Wars universe. That intrigues me. I love Count Dooku because yes, he's a Sith Lord, but he's just a swagger of a guy. I
Yeah.
want a Sith Lord that goes home to his wife and kids and is just an everyday person, but he is built up with this rage for the Jedi and not out of hate, but just like out of the idea of the Jedi. And I
I
want
mean,
Jedi
that's
that are
Andor
flawed.
in a sense. Yeah. Doesn't Andor have like a couple of scenes with pretty normal character who work for the Empire and stuff like that? And I think it works quite well.
And
So
yes, and it works when it's like this breakdown of this structure of good and bad, right? Because with Star
yeah.
Wars, just like any well-written media has a clear, obvious definition of good side and bad side. But there are plenty of instances where, you know, it's not it's a gray line, and there are also examples in the past where people have tried to do this, but it flopped. The Last Jedi is a great example where they draw a very grey line of good and bad. Benicio del Toro's character plays that grey market arms dealer, and he's selling to both sides. And it's like, that's a really interesting character, but it's just not structured well. And there was a lot more that was wrong with that film, but yada, yada, yada. I really like where they want to go, but they just aren't putting their best foot forward to get there.
Yeah, I completely agree. I think that's what to me maybe like we talked about the show as a whole, so it's implied that we talk about spoilers. But now, like maybe specifically talking about spoilers, I think a lot of people, not me included, because I don't know as much about the Star Wars canon, we're looking forward to seeing Darth Plagueis. Is that his name? Who is the master of uh,
Palpatine.
Palpatine? Later on, who's in the shadows, and then it ends on a weird. I think it's like a post-credit thing where it shows like Yoda's at the back of the head of
Head.
Yoda, which is a bit pointless because she already made the point of lying. So why does she go to Yoda now? Is she like what's Yoda got to do with any of the story? So and then I was surprised that we talked about this early on. I think having seen the first 4 episodes, and you were like, yeah, no shot. There's no way they're continuing this because they already have to fix what they're already breaking with the canon. Another I'm pretty sure season 2 is not getting greenlit. I would be very surprised. But like, what do they do in a second season? Because they can't do any of the Sith stuff. Can't be out, otherwise it breaks the canon with the prequels. Yeah, yeah. What do you think of that whole like cameo teasing at the end? Like at the very end, that it's not like it doesn't add anything to the narrative.
Look, they can still continue a narrative. Like, yes, it's still set a while before the prequels. And in terms of timeline, Palpatine can't be born yet. At least I don't think he's born yet. So there's still quite a lot that they can do. And I guess that we could have the narrative that the I mean, do you not want to see Yoda and Plagueis battle it out? Like, I would totally want to see that in
I
live
have no
action, but
connections, so I don't
we
know.
could have a like the Jedi wipe out the Sith. Like they just wipe them out, and that's where timeline comes back on. Because even though yes, I'm pretty sure because it gets all muddled with like extended lore and like actual lore and what's included, but I don't think in like the current Disney lore that Plagueis was Palpatine's master. So it could be like
Right.
Plagueis is Quimia's master, and then Quimia gets Palpatine. He could be the guy who trains Palpatine or
Yeah.
whatever. But like there is still a narrative that can link to the prequels here, and there can be still a narrative that works that does these ideas in a really good way, but just doesn't fucking do stupid shit. At the end of the day, Jackie and Yord, their narrative doesn't matter to me because they were just useless characters that just ended up being cannon fodder and died. I don't care that by the end of like the third episode, your Yeki and May were all like, "Oh, I'm gonna miss you." Like, I don't care. None of that matters to me. Like, because that
Mm.
character is dead and they didn't do anything. At least Anakin's mother died and did something for his character, but doesn't do anything for May. It's just over in the episode. It's stupid. Anyway, sorry, I didn't mean to get mad there. But yeah, like they're just killing off people for the sake of killing off people without giving them a like the death of Sol played a purpose. He is now not a good guy in the history books, and that's an interesting use of his character. He is now the Jedi's cannon fodder for like, we're not bad, I swear. Look, hang on, he's just a rogue Jedi, and that happens once in a while.
Yeah.
Just like Anakin.
Him. I don't have much beyond that. I think unfortunately the Kogonada episodes were some of the worst of the series, just because the kids were pretty bad, but they featured some decent like fights in some. No, never mind. No, I don't know. It fumbles the bag and like bringing in so late the reveal of what happened and what ultimately led there, when I thought that like, okay, I guess they did that in episode 3, but then they rehashed it in 7 and basically give us additional context that didn't really change anything about like how I perceived it. I still kind of saw it already in 3. It was clear, and then it like spells it out to you. I don't think there's like a good justification for any of the characters to act the way that they do. It's just it's bad writing all around. I ended up giving the show like a 3 out of 10. That's my assessment of it. And yeah, at the beginning I thought like, hey, maybe there's something there, but it quickly just like went downhill and didn't recover. But yeah, what about you, Lachlan?
A 1.5 out of 5.
There we go. Not a great rating for us, but hey, maybe there will be a season 2. So yeah, if you watched all the way to the end, let us know what you thought of it. I'm sure that some other people who don't like it already left that there. The angry comments. Let us know what you want to see next in Star Wars. I know they have a shit ton of movies that they have kind of on the horizon, but hey, they cancel them left and right. We'll see you soon. Goodbye.
Bye.